Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and this is my channel where we talk about all the houseplant things. I've been a houseplant collector since about 2018 and throughout the years I have experienced a number of emotions surrounding how many plants I have, how many plants I'm capable of taking care of, and honestly just how many plants that I want to have at that time. Sometimes that number is very high and sometimes that number is a little bit lower. So today I want to talk about how to reach your equilibrium. You don't necessarily want to keep buying more plants, but you might want to try out some new things and just, continue the houseplant hobby. And you're trying to find ways to do that without constantly bringing in new plants. Okay, here we go. Tip number one I have for you is the 1 in, 1 out rule. Now, this only applies to if you're buying new plants. This does not apply to if your plants are dying. Okay, so I don't think that necessarily a plant dying is like your opportunity to go buy more to replace it. Sometimes I think that if a plant dies, it's sort of a time to reflect and just think about why it died. Maybe it died because you just have too much going on. Oftentimes that is the case for me. When a plant dies, I don't rush out to the store to get a new one. However, if a plant is coming in, I do look around my collection and think about what can go out. Now, I will admit I'm not the best at actually following through with getting the plants out, but the thought is there. And I feel like if you're not in a place where you feel like you could get rid of a plant, maybe it's not the best time to bring one in. Or if you have a very, very specific place where you're going to put that new plant and no other plant would be happy there, or all of your other plants have really wonderful spots, then I think it's fine. But generally, when you have reached your plant number capacity, which for everybody it's different. For some people it's 10. For me, it's like 100. And that is mostly because this is my full-time job to take care of my plants. So I can have a little bit higher of a capacity. But I've just realized over the last couple of months that I don't have the capacity that I had before, which was more like 120, 130. I needed to drastically decrease the amount of plants that I have. And I think honestly, my number is hovering more around 80, but I am going to be doing a plant tour soon and I will do like a full count to see how many plants I actually have and kind of decide from there what my number is. But I try not to count too often. And sometimes I think that I should count more often because it's kind of like when you avoid checking your bank account because you just don't want to know. That's kind of how I feel when it comes to counting my plants. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. 1 plant in, 1 plant out. Tip number 2 is surrounding wish lists. So wish lists were a really big thing for me when I was kind of new to the hobby and there were so many plants that I didn't have yet. So I would make a wish list and I would post it online, and it was a really great way to set up trades, and maybe some people just wanted to give away that specific plant. So it's a way to get free plants if you put it out there. But also it kind of keeps you narrowed in on these specific plants. So you're not going to buy new plants unless they are from your wish list. And I would say this is also a very slippery slope to make it be like, oh, well, I've gotten all of the plants from my wish list. Let's make a new wish list, or let's keep adding on to the wish list. Very easy to fall into. So I would say set a wish list for that year and maybe make it 20 plants or 10 or whatever the number is for you. Look for those plants. See if you can find them, but be casual about it. We don't need to be intense. The plants are here. They're circulating somewhere. You will find them within the year, surely. And so that kind of limits your acquisition to those 10 to 20 or however many plants you decide to put on your wish list. I personally have not made a wish list in a really long time. I kind of just have plants floating around in my head. So if you want to see my wish list, let me know. Sometimes I'm hesitant to make a wish list video because people, and this seems so silly, but people are very generous, and because there's a lot of subscribers here, people are like, oh, I'll send it to you. And then I have the ability to have like all of my wish list plants at once, which is almost like not like defeating the purpose of a wish list, but it can feel overwhelming. And again, like when I'm complaining that people want to send me plants, it's not about that. It's just about like the overwhelm of so many new plants at once, which is sort of like a 2.5 tip. Like, I don't know, a side tip would be like just to not buy a bunch of plants at one time, because it can be overwhelming to have all these new plants at one time, and then maybe some other plants in your collection might die. I would suggest bringing in like 1 to 2 plants at a time if you can, unless you're making an order online, in which case 1 in, 1 out, 5 in, 5 out. It all connects. But yeah, if you want to see a wish list video, let me know, because I have a few things that I'm looking at considering. Number 3, we love propagating plants. It's the best part of collecting plants for some people. For me, it's like really fun, but I don't find myself like constantly chopping up my plants. I've always been a little stingy with that kind of stuff. But I will say that when I do prop a plant, because I am a bit stingy, I really don't like getting rid of it. And that's my downfall, because then I have added a plant to my collection and it doesn't feel like it because it was free. It's kind of like girl math. I girl math myself into having way too many plants way too many times, okay? So something that I do to combat this is, number one, actually getting rid of the cuttings that I make. So giving them to a friend is really gratifying. I've done that a bunch of times with my album Monstera. I've sent out lots of cuttings to people. No expectations to get anything back, but just because I want to spread the love. That's a really great thing for my heart, to get pictures of those plants and see how they're doing now. You can also sell them. You don't have to just give them away. If you want to sort of recoup some of the money that you spent on that plant, you can totally do that. And then the second way that I combat growing my collection rapidly via propagation is to just pot that propagation back in with the mother plant. If you have watched my plant tour videos, you probably have seen me do this before. And it's because I like my plants to appear very full and big and bushy. So that's just sort of like a personal preference as far as houseplant care or houseplant aesthetic goes for me. So one of the great ways to do that is to chop and prop and pot it back in with its mom. So I've done that with my elbow. Again, I told you I just took a bunch of cuttings of it a couple months ago, and those are now potted back into the mother plant. And I've got 2 more that will hopefully root. Fingers crossed, and I'll be able to pot those back in with the mother. It's a free way to make your plants appear bigger. And another thing, another 3.5, another side step, if you are buying a plant, a lot of people say not to buy duplicates, but I don't really feel the same about that. Like, I think it's fine to buy a duplicate if you like the plant and you know that you can take care of it well. I really like to pot my duplicate in with my original plant so that I get like double the plant. And it feels like my original plant grew so much. And then when it feels like it's a part of your original plant, it feels like it was free. So again, girl math. Okay, and number 4 is to focus on quality plant accessories and not necessarily the plants themselves. So this was a little shift that I took in my plant journey, and I mainly focused on pottery because pottery is a really big part of collecting houseplants. And a majority of my plants are in basic terracotta pots, just like this one. And I really like these pots. I think they're really, really beautiful. But there's just nothing special about these. Now, something like this, these beautiful mushrooms, there is definitely something special about this. And I like pots that feel kind of low profile. They kind of blend in with the general like terracotta mood. So this definitely fits that bill. There is this really cool design on it, but it feels very low key. So for me, that is kind of the direction that I went with my pottery. And I was worried about adding on these accessories because I just didn't want my collection to feel really haphazard. And so I've honed in the type of pottery that I enjoy. Lots of handmade ceramics, white and terracotta, browns and oranges. And I feel like they look really good in my collection all together. I really like a cohesive look as far as the pottery goes. So for some people, they're going to gravitate towards pottery, like myself. I also took a pottery class, which was, I feel like I have rose-colored glasses about it now because it's been a year. But when I was in it, I was absolutely miserable. I hated it. It was so hard, so much harder than I thought it was going to be. But now that I'm a year out, I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool that I did that. And maybe I should do it again. Other people might gravitate towards fun accessories that you like hang on your plants, like little plant accessories and decorations. And I want to make a video where I talk more about plant accessories and ways that you can accessorize your plants so that you can, I don't know, make your plant collection feel more like your own, and rather than just like a bunch of plants lined up on a shelf. Whereas when you add little accessories and little things like little motifs to your plants, it kind of feels a little bit more eclectic and special to you. That's a video that I have in the works. Other accessories that you can add onto your plants that just really make them special are fun shaped trellises, also really fun display pieces like wall shelves or even like floor shelves. Like I have this big art shelf right here. I have this ladder behind me, which I sometimes like to display plants on. There's just so many things that you can do to display your plants so that they feel new and special every time. Like I just love rearranging my plant collection and seeing my plants in different lights, different angles, different I don't know, different collections of plants together, it just makes everything feel really special and is a really great way to make things feel new, kind of as if you have recently purchased it, but you didn't. So I hope that this video was helpful for you in your attempts to quell the houseplant buying, maybe to keep your plant collection at the number that you are good at. Whatever your number is for you, it's going to be different for everybody, but I do think that it's important to figure out that number and stick to it as best you can so that this hobby doesn't end up feeling like a job or like a burden, because that is honestly the worst, when your beloved hobby turns into this really annoying thing that you have to take care of all the time. And I think that houseplants can very easily become that if you're not careful about how much you're bringing in. And I've talked a lot about on my channel about like spending addictions or shopping addictions and all of those things kind of being disguised in houseplant shopping. And it's kind of a slippery slope, and we feel like buying plants is a good thing, so it doesn't feel bad. But we can definitely find ourselves in debt. We can find ourselves just feeling really overwhelmed by the amount of stuff we've brought in. And I just really love to share messages that will help alleviate those burdens or feelings. So anyway, if this video resonated with you, I'd love for you to chat with me in the comments about it. And if you're not already, make sure that you subscribe to my channel for more chats like this, for more plant chores vlogs, all of those types of things. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.